it's not enough to find a creative that will allow you to like have a 10% profit or break even on your $100 a day spend and just crank it up. You're going to lose profitability 100% guaranteed.
How can you profitably go from zero to $10,000 spent per week for a subscription app? Hello and welcome to Growth Masterminds, the podcast for growth marketers. My name is John Koetsier. It's kind of one thing to start spending low and slow on an app and be profitable, right? That's doable. It's not super crazy hard. It's a very different thing to scale that to $10,000 a week and still be profitable. How do you do that? Today, we're chatting with someone who did exactly that for an iOS subscription app. He's been a lead gen specialist. He was a senior UA manager for InLogic, where he scaled two mobile games to $50,000 a month each in profitable ad spend. He was also a senior UA exec for Applica, and for the last 2 years, he's been running his own agency, All the Way UA. His name is Lukas Szanto. Welcome, Lukas.
John, thank you so much. Great introduction. Very nice to be here. Nice to see you, and thank you for having me.
Hey, super pumped to have you. Thank you for taking some time out of your day. Really appreciate it. Saw your post on LinkedIn. It was super cool. Wanted to dig into it. Not everybody gets the opportunity to scale to $10,000 a week. That's a pretty high level. That's a lot of cash being deployed. And there's a lot of challenges there. There's a lot of things you can screw up and go wrong. It's easy to spend a lot of money, right? Anybody can spend a lot of money. Doing it profitably is really hard. And there are kind of 5 things you talked about in your post about that I wanted to dive into. The first one was creative testing. Talk about your strategy there.
So with creative testing, I like to split things into 2 phases. You're always either in the launch phase or you're in the scale phase. And when you're in the launch phase, where I would say like spending 300 a day, if you're still in your launch phase, your job there is to get results that are a lot better than what you actually need. It's not enough to find a creative that will allow you to like have a 10% profit or break even on your $100 a day spend and just crank it up. You're going to lose profitability 100% guaranteed. So you need to wait and you need to find your 10x creative, what we call it. So on your current spend, you're able to overachieve, right? So if your goal is 40% profit, you want to be hitting like 80%. And we have a rule of thumb, like for every double of your budget, you're going to lose around 10 to 20% of your results. So if you're at 160% and then you double your budget, you're going to lose like 16 to 32% of that profitability. And so you have to take these into consideration. When we're talking about creative testing, when we're talking about the launch phase in general, it is not smart to try to make money from the get-go. You're just stacking the cards against yourself from the first move, because you will make decisions that are rushed, that are not based on data, and that are, honestly, it's a strong word, but desperate a little bit, right? You will be scrambling, trying to basically print money, but you don't have a printer yet. So the way I explain it is, imagine you're building a tower. You want a strong, solid base first. You don't want to have like 3 ads and start scaling, trying to build a tower from a base that's this wide.
Yeah.
The wider the base, and unfortunately, the reality of things is that the base building is an investment. You're not going to see profit, but you will be so much better off scaling from the base. So when you're starting with creatives, it's important to not go crazy and go like UGC creative, start paying some creators that have a brand, that have their own following. These are all scaling things. UGC creatives, paying people to promote the video on their own profiles. This is all when you have built the rocket and you're just trying to pour the fuel in it. But now we're in the rocket building stage. So the point is, start scrappy. This is my motto. like scrappy, lean, profitable. That's what my LinkedIn bio says. Profitable subscription growth.
That's important. That's really important. And I mean, one of the things I liked about what you talked about there was when you're in that early stage of creative testing, try lots of stuff cheap. Throw a lot of stuff at the wall there. Don't spend a lot of money, but try a lot of different things while you're looking for that unicorn creative, that 10x creative.
And the most important thing is go super wide. Create like 20, 30, 40 different angles. When we say angles, everyone understands fitness and weight loss. So you can lose weight, build muscle, get healthier, be there for your kids in 20, 30, 40 years, lose fat. We have the New Year's now. It's the February. So you can say, give your New Year's resolution another chance. These are all angled, right? So you can create as many of these as you want. We have ChatGPT now. You can have 1,000 angles if you want. Pick your 30 that you like the most. Create static ads, super simple static ads on Canva, and just put them out there. Chances are none of them are going to hit your target. None of them are going to be profitable, but that's fine because some of them are going to be 5-10 times better than the other ones. And that's your starting mix. And that's what you're going to improve and iterate on. Basically, that's you just build the first part of the base, right? You have the creatives with the messaging that is better than everything else you had in the mix. Even though it's not profitable, that is not the point. The point is getting to the next. And once you have all the parts of the base is where you start scaling. So yeah, to drive the point home, most important, start simple, start cheap. What you can do yourself or your team in-house is the best. And just try to find your top 3 messaging angles that you're going to focus on going forward.
And those could change over time, right? Like a few that you mentioned, like Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, right? Or, vacation season is coming up. Maybe, you want to get ready for the beach or something like that, right? So you need to be constantly iterating. You got to keep some of your spend, I'm guessing, in that sort of startup and launch mode. So you're getting fresh angles that are tailored to what's going on now in the world. Is that accurate?
Of course, that is the beauty of once you're scaled up. Usually, let's say 15 to 25% of your spend should go to testing. It kind of depends how profitable your non-testing spend is. But the point there is that you are then, because in the beginning, it's an investment, the base build. But later on, you can round the costs in your profits, right? So you don't see it. The whole thing is profitable. And so basically testing for free. You're not, but you're drowning in the profits, and that's beautiful. So that's where you're trying to go. So yeah, any point of your UA journey you always have to test, because otherwise, like, ads burn out. They fatigue. Sometimes very quickly, in most cases quicker than you expect. So yeah, you always have to be like in front of it. You can't let the wave catch you. You will never get comfortable. Always test.
If the wave catches you, then you're really screwed. Your growth is tanked for a week, a month, who knows, until you rebuild that new base for that new framework there. Super, super interesting. A couple things that I really want to bring out. I talk to a lot of growth professionals. I talk to a lot of UA people. It makes perfect sense what you're saying in terms of testing. You need to be way below your CAC before you hit the scale button. And everybody knows when you scale, you do lose some of that profitability, but I never heard anybody just lay it out there. You need to be like at, 2x of what you want for your CAC, your 2x what you want for your ROAS, whatever measure you want to look at before you hit that scale button.
Yeah, that is very important. With this particular client we're talking about, that we got a 40K in spend. And by the way, we're still going strong. So that's just, it got to a point where it was worth a case study.
Yes.
But yeah, our target there was $10. And we only started scaling when we found ads who were getting us like $5-6 trials. On about 100 to 150 a day.
Yeah.
Spend. Then we started scaling. And, that's a double So you're getting $5 trials and you want $10 trials. And as I said, every doubling of your spend will kind of remove around 10, 15, 20% from your results. So you can do like 5 doubles here. I'm just
Yeah.
a quick math in my head. Maybe if someone is better at that, it doesn't really add up, but kind of, right? So you can double and you go from 5 to 6. Then you
Yeah.
double, you go from 6 to 7, right? And this way you can double 5 times to get to 10. And that's what we did. We went from like 200 to 1,000 a day.
Yeah.
And there you are at your target, right? So this is very important. Before you start scaling, don't immediately. That's what people usually do. People get super excited once they hit their
Mhm.
targets, 'cause it's painful to go through the investment period and then you hit the targets and you're like, yeah, now it's time to crank it, but it's not time to crank it yet. You still need to, but you're almost there. You just, once you hit your targets, you're 2-3 iterations away from the ad that you need that will allow you to scale. And you don't have to wait for one super strong ad. Sometimes the ad volume is what allows you to scale. So you're taking pressure of any one ad. If you can find 8 out of 10 ads, it's as if you had one 10 out of 10 ad, right? So you
Wow.
can either wait for that one huge winner, or you can just create remixes and iterations of what is currently working. And then that the kind of I just like the word pressure. Like if you're
Yeah.
scaling with one winning ad, there's a lot of pressure on that ad.
Yes.
And when the wave catches you, when you said it's a big wave that you're gonna get hit with. If you have 3, 4, 5 ads that you have like in your magazine kind of, and you can turn the first one off when it starts underperforming and something else takes over, that's a better situation to be in.
It's a wider base. It's a wider base, as you mentioned off the
Exactly.
top. You got a stronger foundation to move forward on. It's really funny because I've talked to marketers who have had their 10x creative, their unicorn creative, as I like to call them, and sometimes you hit on that one, and it just keeps working. And you said quite often, creative will fade, right? You get fatigue, and maybe that happens in a couple of days at a certain level of spend, or maybe a couple of weeks or something like that. And there's some creatives that just keep working for months and months and months. It's crazy, and you keep trying to beat them and can't beat them. It's a good problem to have, but it's interesting. Okay, so we talked about creative testing. We talked about being patient, right? That's kind of number 2 there. Being patient. Don't get all crazy when you hit your target CAC or target ROAS or anything like that. You need to be 2x there. Number 3 is campaign structure. And that's quite interesting, actually, right? Because structure doesn't really matter that much when you're small and you're going to stay small. But when you're growing and going to get way bigger, all of a sudden structure is crazy important.
I think structure matters at every stage, but a very good saying that I have is that there are ways to run campaigns or paid ads wrong, but there is no one way to run it right. Once you get the basics right, like you're not optimizing for clicks, all these things I'm not going to get into, but like there's a few levers that have to be pulled to a certain direction. Once you have all that, you're free to do whatever you want. And some marketers don't like the saying that every ad account is different. Me personally, I like it. I think it's about how you look, like what it means to you. The ad accounts are of course all the same, but sometimes you try something and it doesn't work for one client because the account logic is different, right? Some people sell high ticket, low ticket, monetized with ads, hybrid monetization, monetized with in-app purchases, all subscriptions only, subscription plus in-app. So you have to take all that into consideration when you're doing your campaign structure. And I think in the beginning, what is important is that your account has no data, and you putting it all in one campaign, one ad set, and just fill it with some ads, that's a scaling structure. You should do that once you know that the ads you're putting in there they've been proven in your testing process that these are the ads that we can just let them rip, as we say, right? But in the beginning, you don't have ads that you can let rip. And the thing is, you have no data. Meta doesn't know which ad is most likely to work, it's gonna make a guess. But like from my experience, the less data you have in your account, the more likely Meta is to make a wrong decision. So you have to create a structure that allows you to, for example, when I talked about the 30 angles, me personally, I like to put a separate budget on every ad set. And just so you have one ad set per angle, right? And then like 3 to 5 ads within. And I just do a manual budget of X dollars per day on all of these. And I want to see with my own eyes which ones have the highest potential. And then I move those to that let it rip structure. Once we have ads that we know are hitting the target, we then move them to basically the further we go from testing or from launching to scaling, the less we try to steer the boat and we let the algorithm take the place of the captain, and we just roll, like with making new creatives, working on increasing the LTV. But in the beginning, unfortunately, you have to row and you have to steer because, yeah, you just need data. In the beginning, you need to collect data. That's you're building a base that you can launch from.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally believe that each ad account is different. And that is for the exact reasons you talked about. The algorithm is learning you at the same time as you're learning from the algorithm, right? The algorithm is learning what works for this account, what works with these ads, but what works for this product, right? And every product that you're selling, whether that's a subscription app or whether that's in-app, whether that's games and you want in-app purchases and other stuff like that, that's a little different, and it's a little different animal, a little different beast, and it has a little different angle and a little different customer, right? So it's not the same algorithm for you, or it's not the same results for you as it is for somebody else. It looks fairly close or identical from the outside.
As a example from this specific case, the one we're talking about, we had our 10x ad, right? But we had another ad that did really well in testing. It did even better than the 10x ad. But the problem was we moved it to the automated let it rip structure, so the ads were all together. But then the first 10x ad has been running for weeks at that point. And social proof, like 500,000 views with 2,000 likes, it became very strong.
Yes.
This is the reason when you said that you have an ad and it's so difficult to beat it, a part of the reason is because there's so much social proof, and that logically, just think when you're scrolling and you see something with 1 like and you see something with 2,000 likes, you have a different reaction to it, right?
Yes.
So that strengthens the ad even more. And then we had the ad that looked even better in testing. We moved it there, no spend. And so people would tell you, you need to consolidate, like let it be, Facebook's got it, the algorithm. I don't know. When I see a strong ad, I believe in the ad. Everyone tells you the creative is the target thing. If you have strong ads, that's half the game. Yeah, I agree. So when I see a strong ad, I'll take it. We call it isolation. So we'll isolate it into a separate ad set and we'll give it its own budget.
Yes.
Let it run for a few days, not 2 days. When I say a few, 7, 10, 14 days, let it collect its own social proof and then see how it does compared to your OG ad. And in many cases, you can get that ad to perform better or the same as your OG ad, but it would have never happened if you let it sit in the original ad set, because Facebook would never bet on it because of the social proof and all the data that's already been through the first ad.
Exactly. Super interesting. The algorithm isn't that risky from Facebook or Meta's perspective. Meta wants to bet on a proven winner, right? I mean, that's the smart strategy for any bettor, right? You bet on what you know is going to work, right? But that then takes away your chance of discovery, unless, as you've done, you've engineered it in to force it.
Of course, and that's good looking out from them because they want to make you money. So of course they're going to bet on the most likely to win ad. But sometimes, I guess most people watching this are going to be entrepreneurs or at least intrapreneurs working within companies in their own projects. And you understand from life in general, usually reward directly correlated to risk, right? And Meta just won't take the risk because they want to make you money. They want to do it safe, right? They want to play it safe. So sometimes you have to take it into your own hands and just risk a few $100s on the new ad to see if the reward of it is worth it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Cool. So we talked creative testing. We talked about that patience you need for unicorn creative. Just talked about campaign structure and how you build that. I want to talk a little bit about tracking and tools. Of course, we're an MMP, but if you're on one platform, then sometimes you don't need all the things that an MMP brings. But you also talked about a very simple strategy that I love that I've heard from, I want to say, probably like 10 really high level marketers, really technical people, really digital people who have all the tools and are spending at high levels. And that is simply a survey or one question. It's not even a survey. It's just one question. How did you hear about us? And the value of that. Talk about that first, and we'll get into some other tools.
Unfortunately, we as marketers got caught in the crossfire between Apple and Meta when iOS 14 and 14.5 came out. And since then, it hasn't been the same, right? Before we could track and attribute every single click in the app and say, yeah, that was a user from this campaign. Or maybe it wasn't like super 100% totally accurate, but we were in the 90s. Life was good. And then iOS came and they said, no more of that, right? And so we basically were forced to go back a
Old
step.
school.
Yeah, but paradoxically, that was the innovation. We found out that that was the way it was supposed to be run. Even before, we were just lazy and super comfortable with having the direct attribution, and so we were looking at that. But there was still something that wasn't attributed correctly. And like, okay, we were in the 90s, but when you're spending millions a year, 10% is a lot of money, right? So now what we do, and especially in the beginning when you're in the launch phase, we just ask people when they're coming in during the onboarding. Most people have a survey that asks, some kind of personalization questions.
Mm-hmm.
Just say there, how did you hear about us? Number one, you're going to say Facebook and Instagram ad, obviously, because if they came from an ad, they're going to click that. But you should also add a friend or family member, because people, when you have good ads, people share those with friends. And so when you're running and scaling your paid ads, you will start to see that metric, friends and family, also go up. And so you have to calculate what your benchmark is when you're not running ads. And then the delta between that and what you're getting is basically what we call indirect attribution or secondary attribution. Basically, your ads working overtime with people that you haven't paid for, the impressions you haven't paid for. And so that's important. And a little bonus tip, when you're having the survey, shuffle the answers on every show. The first answers always have a bias.
Tap.
A lot of people just tap. Yeah. It's not the majority, actually. Most people go through the survey. They believe it will give them a better experience. But there are some people that just click. And so you have to shuffle the answers to kind of fight against that.
What I like about this, because as valuable as last click attribution can be, what worked at least at the last click, all decisions that we make are overdetermined, right? There's multiple reasons why we do things often. And sometimes when you ask a survey, the thing that's most in their mind might come forward. And especially, maybe you've got a subscription fitness app, maybe there's social stuff out there, maybe people have shared that, maybe you said family or friends, they talked about it, right? Maybe it's a different app in a different vertical and there's a news story about it, or whatever the case might be, right? You're going to capture information there that otherwise you could not get. And that tells you a little bit about the value of the marketing efforts that you're putting out there. What other tools do you like using?
In the launch phase, we really like custom product pages from Apple. So you can, It is a little bit worky. Like you have to understand
Mhm.
how to use it to get attribution properly, but you can connect it to your meta ads. So in meta
Mhm.
ads will point to the custom product page, and that collects all the data. It collects the clicks, it collects the installs, but most people know that it also collects what's called in-app purchases. If you have a trial in your app, the start of the trial counts as an in-app purchase, and
Mhm.
also the conversion to a subscriber counts as an in-app purchase. But only there's another metric. You have in-app purchases and you have paying users. Only the ones who kind of convert from trial to paid user, those are the paying users. So if you take the in-app purchases and you take away the paying users, you get the number of trials, right? And then the paying users are the number of subs. So it's a bit worky. You have to understand what I drew the documentation. That's how I found out, right? I was like, okay, this metric means this metric means this. And also what most people don't know is that you can do cohorts in custom product pages, right? There's a filter called download date. And so you can download date this week, right? We have 5 weeks, I think, of this year that are gone. So you can say week 1
Mhm.
is my download date, and then paying users, and you open the date range in the top right corner in the App Store Connect from the beginning of the first week until today. And now you're getting an answer to a question of, from the people who installed in the first week, how many paying users have there been until today? And that's a
Yeah.
cohort, right?
Yeah. Nice.
You just got free cohorted performance that you can do on weekly or monthly basis, or even daily, but that's not very useful. It's free. It's kind of reliable. Like for direct attribution, people click, it's reliable. But the problems are that we are now in a real society. So everyone's scrolling reels, short form
Yes.
content. And when you're on your scrolling spree, you don't want to stop. So even if you
Mhm.
see the ad, you take a screenshot and you go on, or you share it with your friend and you go on. And so then you don't click and those CPPs don't work. But that's why they work so well together, the CPPs
Mhm.
and the survey question. Because when you ask the survey, of course, you're not just going to look at the data and do nothing. You build a simple tracker in your mix panel or amplitude or whatever you're using. You pull from your Facebook ad account the costs. You pull from your survey answers the number of trials that are started, and you filter it by the people who answered this answer to the onboarding survey, and you get your cost per trial, right? So we spend
Mhm. Mhm.
$10,000. You got 1,000 people that said in the survey that they're coming from an ad, and you have a $10 cost per trial that you can see every day in your mix panel. If
Nice.
you want to take it a level further, you can assign a value to every trial based on the conversion rate of some underlying metrics. Like, for example, different age ranges have different conversion rates from trial to paid. And so you take that into consideration, and every trial can get its own value. And so you basically in your mix panel can see real-time ROAS of your campaigns every day that you come and have a look.
Love it, love it, love it. Lots you can do there. Amazing stuff. And that's not even talking about the benefits of custom product pages is in terms of, hey, this is my ad set. This is my campaign. Here's this one angle that I'm taking, and that custom product page follows that angle. So it's a consistent message from the very beginning somebody hears about my app to when they get to the app store to when they download it and start using it, which is also useful. Okay, cool. So I want to hit number 5, and that is I've just labeled challenges, right? So we talked about testing, talked about the unicorn creative campaign structure, tracking, and tools. Challenges. You're going to run into challenges. This is the real world. This is mobile marketing. It's the fastest paced, most changeable, weirdest the industry on the planet, right? And people's tastes change, and an ad that you thought was amazing just dies all of a sudden. All that stuff happens, and technology, fails and stuff happens. One challenge you had is you lost event tracking partway through this big campaign get to this $10,000 a day spend. Talk about that, or $10,000 a week spend. Sorry, talk about that. What happened? How'd you fix it?
I think what happened there, I don't remember exactly, but there was a situation where Meta, without any notice, as far as I know, they discontinued one event. So there's two events, right? Start trial and
Yes.
app purchase. And like sometimes when you go for the trials, you just send it as a purchase because I don't know. That's the way it comes out of the box, the Facebook SDK. So if you're lazy to change it, that's how you do it. And I don't remember the exact situation, but Meta did something where they changed which events were being fired when. And
Mm-hmm.
like everyone who was optimizing for that one event just saw nothing.
Yep.
Or one day, one morning, I woke up and like half of my accounts had 0 results. And I was like, whoa. And I think this was also the case with this account. And then obviously you don't know what it is because you can't just, there's no Meta newsletter where they tell you like, hey, we're doing this. So, you have to figure it out. You have to try. First you think it's the campaign, blah, blah, and then you see it in more accounts. And so you have to fix it. Sometimes to fix it, with this particular one, you want to fix it, you have to submit a new submission, right, to the App Store. And a lot of people did that because most people were experienced.
And then it takes more time.
Yeah, it was long. And for some reason, we did that and it didn't work. So then we needed to do another one. And yeah, so for 2 weeks, we didn't have event tracking. But there is nothing special about this challenge. I would speak on this topic more generally and coming back to all the way to the beginning of this conversation. If you're launching paid ads with the expectation of I'm going to make money, like this is a money-making thing from the get-go, of course it's a money-making thing, but from the get-go, you're not going to like the results you're going to get. Because that is, last year, I think when we're talking specifically about launching, last year we launched for, I think around 20 apps, their ads. The median outcome on the launch is 50% ROI. So you're losing half of the money you're investing. And unfortunately, that is just the way it is. Unfortunately, the way it is that in the beginning, you need to go through investment to figure out the way forward. It's the same. Probably everyone watching this has a product, a game or an app, something. Imagine someone told you, hey, I'm launching an app, but like I'm making money first month. This is my expectation. I'm a launch and I'll make some money and then it just goes from there. We're going to scale. What would you tell them? Like, that's unreasonable, right? You're probably not going to achieve that. So with our clients, the median outcome is we have a 50% on launch. And yes, there are exceptions. We've had clients where we launched and it was profitable straight away because it was a great product and we just scaled. But we also had the other exceptions where we launched and it was a 20% return. And usually it takes around 3 months to get to break even. But the thing is, you crawl through the mud to get to break even.
Yes.
You're usually one iteration from profitability. Once you become profitable, if you don't sleep on it and you like keep working on ad iterations, you keep improving your funnel, the product, you will never become unprofitable again. You will, forever is a strong word, but like probably for a long time, you'll be able to put something in and get more out.
Yes.
At that point, the only question is that how much can we spend while hitting our profit targets?
Right.
Can we make this profitable? And so those 3-4 months that you spend time, effort, and money, the investment to get the profitability, that'll be paid back over time because from that point on, you will just make money every month. So I think the most important thing is to have realistic expectations. And unfortunately, in the agency world, it's sometimes difficult to get from the people you're approaching. Because yeah, of course, the business model is let's sell the dream. And then if we don't deliver who cares? Like, we'll get paid 3 months in a row, a retainer, and then we go to the next client. So realistic expectations are very important. And so
Mhm.
make sure you get in touch with someone who you trust and who's not going to paint like pink unicorns in front of you and try to sell you the dream. It is hard work, just like with anything else. If it was that easy, I wouldn't have a job, right? So just launch a campaign, do some creatives, and like put 100K in, get to
AI will do it all. Come on.
That's it. So it is not that everyone who's worked on paid performance marketing in any sphere will tell you that it is hard work. And just like in business or in whatever, most people will fail because their expectations are too high and their time frame is too short.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That I think I think it's across almost all human endeavor. What you want as an outcome and what you're prepared to do for it and how long you're prepared to do that for until you get there. Those are challenges. Just to illustrate your point, I'm going to read a couple things from what you posted about this. You said 8 weeks in to this particular campaign, you needed a 2x improvement to hit your target, kept going. 12 weeks in, you hit the target for the first time, and then you went even harder, right? So that was 12 weeks to get to, hey, this is the CAC that we need. This is the ROI that we need. And then you need to go farther because you need to get the 2x before you could scale. So there is a process here. There is a time frame. This does take time. And talking about time, you've got a thing coming up, and we're at like 35 minutes here, which is awesome, but it's also at our limit. This has been really cool. I want to thank you for taking this time near the end of your day. I want to thank you for sharing a lot of your insights and a lot of gold, frankly, in this conversation about how you do what you do and what others can learn from it. Thank you so much, Lukas. I really do appreciate it.
John, there's nothing to appreciate. I appreciated you called me and you had me on the podcast. Thank you very much. I always enjoy, as you can probably say, I'm a talker. So I enjoy talking to people who are passionate about the same thing that I am. So for me, this wasn't work. For me, this was pastime, a hobby. It was great.
Perfect. We'll have a beer, but it have to be separate because you're in Europe and I'm in Canada.
Yeah, like these are online. You can have an online.
Exactly.